How's it going, everybody? I am Gilflo.
And I'm Lord Spleech, flying down like Stain.
And we are the Video Game Archivists. And today we are reviewing WCW vs. NWO
World Tour.
Alright, so let's talk about the N64 wrestling games before we even get started in this, right? So this was the system of wrestling games.
Oh, yeah.
So there's 296 games. Most of them are racers and sports and platformers, right? Those are your three key categories.
True. Well, also I would have to put first-person shooters.
First-person shooters
for
too.
N64.
Correct. Most people categorize these as fighting games. I think the N64, you have to categorize wrestling separate from fighting games.
Oh, yeah,
they
definitely.
Are their own entity.
Yeah,
there was essentially two different kinds. There was the AKI,
Yep.
right? And then there was the other kind.
Yeah, pretty much.
So this was the first WCW one that came out. This one came out in 97?
Sounds about right.
Okay. So do you want to go ahead and get us started on the main menu? I'll kind of talk about what's going on here. So when this game came out, don't say it.
Don't worry about that.
This is the first one, obviously. So they were getting their bearings about it.
Yep.
Say no, or say yes. Say
yeah.
yes.
Oops.
All right. Cool. So you have a couple different versions. You can do, basic.
Just the wrestling.
Yep. So you pick which side,
Right.
and you can put CPUs on. You can fight yourself. Go back real quick for me to the main
Oh,
menu. League Challenge is where you unlock players. Can you go under that? We'll kind of just show it off. So each one of these, you have to win a belt on. Each one unlocks a different character. Once you unlock a belt from each one of these, you unlock the final league, and then you have to win one of two belts, which unlocks your final two characters. There's 6 unlockables in this game, which is pretty cool, because the N64 was one of the last. I don't want to say the last, because GameCube and PS2.
Yeah, PS2 and Xbox, but
this was like
this was when unlocking was still like mainstream heavy.
So this is, I haven't used GameFAQs.com for years.
Ever, yeah.
And we started doing this series, and I pulled up for every game just to see what we can unlock.
Oh, yeah, and for me, it's basically, I'm still glad that site's around, because sure, you can go on YouTube and find unlocks, but sometimes you definitely don't want to turn some YouTubers, because some people have annoying intros and everything, and I prefer GameFAQs. When you just need the quick unlock, that's it.
Alright, so why don't you go ahead and jump in, and we'll talk a little bit about this game.
I think I'll go ahead, just go ahead and just do the one of the
we won't finish it, but we can
modes.
start.
Yeah. Let's play. Hey, Ninja.
So, what makes this one different, right? This one, not so much the customization, that comes later.
Yeah, I will say that's one thing that is missing, because this is what I call the start of the quadrilogy of AKI games. And unfortunately, like, I was trying to remember if this had customization, but when we started playing, it's like, oh shit, it doesn't.
So, this doesn't have customization yet, but when it came out, you would never know that. For nostalgia purposes, you would have never known that.
Oh yeah,
but
it was the beginning.
The controls feel right? So you go into the traditional hold pattern. You don't have your hand on the thumbstick.
Yeah.
B punches and kicks, and A grapples.
Yeah, I want to try.
And then down C does the Irish whip, or makes you run. So the controls are very easy, and you build special meter. You do a long grapple, and you hit the control stick, or you use control stick to taunt. The other games, I couldn't figure them out. Like, I couldn't figure out how to do the moves. It was not fun. They were more like traditional fighters, where this one was just, you have fun.
It was basically, they had the controls down pat. Now, because this is the start, like, I know you can actually go inside the ring. Like, okay, I hit the R button, I do a counter, and with this character's counter, it goes right into an actual wrestling pin.
Yep.
But I know when it comes to control, it's like, you can go outside the ring, actually grab weapons out from the audience. All you gotta do is up C on that one. But for the life of me, partly because I couldn't remember, because later on we played one of the later games just for shits and giggles outside of Twitch, but I couldn't remember how to pick up a character to set him up for a fall. Oh, I missed that one.
So do you want to grab something from the audience too when you get a chance?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, as soon as I can counter. Or not. Yeah, I will say this game in general, but that's for all of them, is like, you gotta time your counter right, because if not...
Oh, nope, you can't find anything. So you can get weapons from the audience in these games, which was really cool. Yeah. Entering the ring's really easy. The controls are what I think makes this game.
Yeah. Now, one thing that might knock on the entering, because when you get used to the later ones, you could actually just run into the ring. You didn't have to actually get up and everything. Now, I'm trying to remember if that was WrestleMania 2000 or the sequel to this game, which is Revenge. WCW versus NWO Revenge.
Yeah. All right, so I'm going to kind of go over my notes that I haven't talked about. So the faces look terrible, like, in this game. Again, early, but this game set the groundwork for everything, you know what I mean, how we were going to do it. The animations are kind of iffy, but you wouldn't have known that when the game came out. Everything about this game, knowing the later games, is primitive. But when it first came out, we wouldn't have known that.
Yeah.
That's really all I have about this.
Yeah. Now,
this wouldn't be my choice of wrestling game of the 4 AKI games, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it necessarily wouldn't be either, but I still enjoy this. Like, when it came to the stream, I still enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And now, I know right now I got the special on. Hopefully my character actually has the regular stick. Yep, there we go.
So, yep, once you hit special, you can do your special really easy.
Oh.
It's not like a button code like a normal fighter. And I think that's what separates these games from fighters, is it's not just a fighting game.
Now, to knock on the special to a certain extent, but this usually comes with knowledge of wrestling, because I know when I first started playing these AKI games, and I even played one other wrestling game that was an AKI, but it's because I went to my cousin's house, and he was a big wrestling fan, so of course he had these.
Yep.
And just in general, but I will say, when looking at the spirit meter, one thing you can tell, because this is the first one of the game, is there's probably in some ways rubber banding to this, because I know when we were playing on stream early on, I was especially beating the fuck out of the guy, but all of a sudden he was getting his special meter all the way up, and I was thinking it was just hey, so that way they keep the match longer, which is probably more realistic to actual wrestling of the sports entertainment variety. But as go along later in the series, the quadrilogy, it's just more or less in general. Yeah, you actually have it a little bit more realistic. So the more you beat down on the guy actually has to earn to pump himself up to actually get his special.
Yeah, correct. And if you're getting the crap beaten out of you, you can't earn a special like your computer player did there.
Yeah.
So the turnarounds aren't as common in the later games.
Yeah.
There is a hidden life meter that you can't see in these games. So in order to pin him, you have to hurt him enough to pin him or make him submit.
Yeah. Let's get him away from the rope break and then try for the pin.
So that's all I really.
Oh wait,
have.
no, it's R. Hold R. Shit. Okay, never mind. This game did have the pickup setup, which I thought it did, but I couldn't remember me, so I was thinking maybe not. But of course now. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. Down C in this game, because sorry, I'm used to the later games too, because me and Gil do play the later games a lot. So yeah, sometimes we forget the pin and the early games. But okay, now I remember the control on this one.
All right, so you want to finish this guy off, and then we'll move into. I don't have anything else really to say about this game.
Well, for me, as another point while trying to play this, is that you can tell by the music, since this is the early one, music is probably the most video gamey, where it's like, okay, it just feels like a video game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the closest thing they had to base this game off of was the Super and Nintendo games. You know what I mean?
And I know they could have compared to the competition. Now, I remember hearing something about the AKI. I would actually have to do research that they actually did their own wrestling games. I think I remember hearing Fire Pro Wrestling, but I actually forget this, so someone's going to have to check it, or we're going to have to check it for a later review in the later games.
All right, cool.
Pinfall, yes.
So, all right, let's go ahead and get into the review.
Okay.
All right. So, if you haven't seen one of our videos before, this is our rating scale. We're going to go through it pretty quickly. Basically, 50 is there's nothing good or bad about the game. Swaying either way. Once you get above 50, all the way to 100 is good to perfect, and then 50 and below is bad to Superman 64,
which is foreshadowing for, yeah.
I have painfully played that game on stream, and Spleech is going to play it when we get around to this one.
You son of a bitch.
So, reviews, right? So, I gave this game a 70 on the nostalgia meter. I think it's a good game, but I think there's a lot wrong with it that they fixed in the later games.
Which, you're not wrong. For me, I can't help but give it a higher score for nostalgia. To me, it's a great game.
Yeah.
Because while playing on stream, I still had the fun out of it. Plus, as a kid, I did play this a lot more. And, it's basically, I mean, I wasn't super big into wrestling except for WWF in, like, the late Attitude Era until a little bit later on.
Yeah.
So I also didn't know the characters necessarily in this game. But because these games were actually easy and fun to pick up and play from the AKA guys, that it was just like, I still had fun even to this day.
Yeah. Well, I know I gave it a lower score than you did. You probably spent more time with this.
Oh, definitely.
I remember as a kid picking it up and playing it a couple rounds and then getting bored of this one. The later ones, not so much.
Oh, yeah.
Like the next WCW game we're going to play, which is Revenge.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Revenge.
I will say I definitely played more of Revenge because basically, like, I know I probably rented these games myself too,
Yep.
but like I said, I also had my cousin. He was big into wrestling, so I ended up playing those.
Yeah.
But I know it's basically once Revenge came out, I definitely moved on to Revenge.
Gotcha. Okay. So let's go ahead and talk about our scores now. So games rust over time. You know,
Yep.
what I mean, obviously better games. We've talked this entire review about the later games and how much better they are. So looking back now, my score drops significantly to a 53. I know Spleechers doesn't. It's still a good game.
Yeah.
If you like WCW and like the characters that are in this one, go ahead and grab it. It's only $8, so as a collector, you know, it's not that big. I recommend every other AKI wrestling game on the 64 before you get this one. But that's me personally.
No, I mean, you're not actually wrong on that, but to me, it's like eventually, when it comes to the wrestling games, like, once we get to some of the other ones, I'll have to judge it more on to, like, there's one I did play that my cousin had, but the other ones I'm going to have to judge as is, but, even, it's going to hard not to, when it comes to our nostalgia scores, compare it to these.
Yeah.
And to me, at some point, okay, this might be the last one for you to pick up, but still pick it up.
Yep, definitely.
And for me, I didn't knock the score down. Yes, it's missing some features, and as you go on, the main big thing that came to these games was character customization. And yeah, this game did not have it. But even back then, they hadn't put it in yet. But once you get on later, and if I remember right, I think it was Revenge that started the customization. But even in my heart, I can't knock it down that badly. It's still a fun game to play. As much as, once you compare it to the other ones, because as you will see later in my scores, I'm going to start just boosting the fuck as the later ones. It's going to be, for me, it's like the last two games are going to be the ones that are going to be hard for me to decide exactly.
The WWF games. So, in the end, overall rating, it gets a 70. I think it's right where it should fall.
Yeah.
It's a good game. It's fun to play if you like this style of wrestling game for the N64. But the later ones are much better. For $8, it's not really going to hurt you too much to pick it up if you're looking to collect.
Yeah, and honestly, it's still worth it.
Yep.
It's still worth it.
So,
and for such a cheap price.
So that's all I really have to say about it. You got anything else?
Not too much. I mean, I can get into some points I might have to reference. It's like basically when we get into the next game, I'll reference this game. Now this game introduced this.
Yeah, yep. So, and that's why we're playing them in order. But anyway, thanks for tuning in. You can catch us on Twitter at @thegame_archivist. Twitch, we are _video_game_archivist. YouTube, we are the video game archivist. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.